Welcome back to the TruGolf Academy. You've joined me, Jon Watts, today out on our 17th tee at Branston Golf and Country Club. Today's video is all going to be about the lead wrist. I'm mainly going to be focusing on the backswing, but I'm going to touch how that starts to affect your downswing as well. It's a key to really controlling your club face position for straighter shots. Stay tuned to find out more. As mentioned, today's video is all going to be about the lead wrist, mainly focusing on the backswing, but how that affects club face control. And I'm going to show you a really simple drill to make sure you're getting that lead wrist in the correct position at the top of your backswing. So I'm going to be going with a driver here, but this would be relevant for any golf club. What we're talking about is club face control without having to use a lot of hand and arm action to try and square the club face through impact. And this is my preference, and now there are some elite golfers that you will see who have a different lead wrist position and make some compensations. What I'm talking about is the easiest way I find that you can, as a player, control that club face with more body rotation, less hands and arms involved. When you're relying on hands and arms trying to square the club face, of course it's relying a lot on rhythm, timing, tempo and all sorts of things. So I'm focusing on that lead wrist and what it's doing in the backswing. So I'm going to actually talk a little bit about the takeaway first of all. What I want to try and do in that first move away from the golf ball, which is quite a vital part for me, is feel like my lead wrist, so if I pop a glove on here, the logo on my glove stays pointing at the golf ball or the target a little bit longer. Now, of course, there is rotation here, but what I don't want to start seeing is this lead wrist, my glove logo pointing straight out of the camera in my takeaway position here at 90 degrees to my target. I want to feel like my lead wrist stays pointing down towards the golf ball that little bit longer in this first position. Because for me, if we start getting the lead wrist wrong early on, it's very hard in the rest of the backswing. So I want to try and in that first movement, feel like my glove logo is pointing downwards more towards the golf ball. Now what I would see with a club face position there in that first move is the club face mirroring my spine angle. So I want that to be around this angle here, not in an open position and not with the club face in a closed position where the club face, the loft is pointing down towards the floor too much. So that is a very neutral lead wrist and a very good club face position to aim for in that first move. As I wind to the top of the backswing, my preference would be for a pretty flat left wrist at the top of the backswing, lead wrist here. So quite flat, so it's following my left arm here. I don't mind seeing, and there are some elite golfers more this way, with their lead wrist more in flexion, which almost means the glove logo is pointing more up towards the sky here. We get more of a closed club face position. That could be an issue if we're missing everything to the left, but what it encourages golfers to do is really rotate their body to stop that club face flipping, closing too much. My preference, however, would be flat. What I don't want to see, and I see too often, is people with a real cupping in this lead wrist here. It's more in extension, and that makes it very hard to control the club face. So that's the number one issue. Now again, there are some good golfers and have been some very good players in that position, but what they do on the downswing is they change direction. Now if we can time that through rhythm, tempo, timing, and we can do it consistently, fair enough, it's not a fault. But I'm talking about making the game easier here, not harder. So what I want you to do as an exercise is just with a cane in the end of the grip, could hold it up the side of the golf club. It will actually work a little bit on that takeaway move, and I recently just filmed a takeaway video talking about some different drills you can do. One of them is keeping this cane in contact with my left side, my lead side here, which again means my wrist hasn't got too active. I'm not getting that club face inside my hands or open. So I'm getting this wrist angle we really want, and this club face position I'm really looking for by keeping this cane in contact with my side. But this exercise is more for the top of the backswing. So that's my first move. By the time I wind to the top of the backswing, if I've got a pretty flat left wrist, the cane is pointing out in front of me over here. If I get that left wrist more in cupping, I cannot see that cane. It's hidden, as I'm, in my view, through my lead arm or even behind me here. So I want that cane pointing out in front of me over in this direction. So my practice rehearsal is cane in contact with my lead side, cane pointing in front of me, and that gets that very neutral lead wrist, which means I need less hand action to try and square the club face. So my lead wrist is really key for club face control. So just a few rehearsals of what we're trying to do. Takeaway move, cane in contact with my lead side. Top of the backswing, flat left wrist, means that cane points out in front of me, and that means it's much easier to control that club face without having to really use excessive hands and arms. So let's give that a go. I'm just going to go ahead and rehearse what that feels like without the cane in the golf club. So takeaway move, glove logo pointing more down towards the ball. You can see the leading edge matches more my spine. Very flat left wrist, I can feel that at the top of the swing, that butt end of the golf club is pointing out in front of me. And it just feels much easier to get that club face back to the golf ball without having to manipulate it. Let me see if I can hit a fairway for you. Nearly just down that right side, just landing in the semi-rough, just inside the tree line there. Not bad at all. I think that was just a slight toey strike there, but it felt a lot easier to try and control that club face position with my lead wrist. I know working on your lead wrist is definitely going to help your accuracy. It's a key part for me for club face control. If you did enjoy that content of the video, give us a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel for all the other content every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 5:30. Thanks guys, we'll see you soon.